Welcome to a basic WordPress tutorial series put on by the UCF College of Sciences Web Department. In this first video, we will cover accessing your new WordPress site, logging in, an overview of the WordPress dashboard, and setting up basic site settings. Please note that this tutorial covers WordPress 3.9 and covers installations with similar WordPress functionality and administrative aesthetics. Alright, so let's begin. First off, I've gone ahead and loaded up the WordPress page after the installation is complete. I also have another tab open, which I'll use to log into the back end of the website, also known as the WordPress dashboard. For reference, anytime you want to log into the back end of your site, just use your full WordPress URL, and then at the end tack on /wp-admin, and that will redirect to the login page. In this instance, I've gone ahead and put in my credentials, so I'll go ahead and log in. Alright, so this is the WordPress dashboard. This will be the launching point where you can make any changes to your website, whether they be adding new content, modifying existing content, or adjusting the settings of your site. We'll go ahead and start with the WordPress admin bar up at the top here. This bar, once you're logged in, will show up on both the back end of the site, on this dashboard page, and on the front end of the site. So if I go back to my front end tab and I hit refresh, you'll notice that the admin bar is now loaded. What this will let me do is quickly toggle between the front and the back end of the site, and also quickly access different areas that are key. So if that's adding new content, or if it's going back to specific menus on the back end of the site. And the menu will change depending on which side you're on, the front or the back. So if I'm on the front end right now and I hover over this home icon with my WordPress website, it'll give me some quick links to commonly used areas on the back end. And if I hover over new, that'll give me some links to new media or new posts or pages or users. If I go ahead and click on the home icon that says my WordPress website, it'll take me to the back end. And now if I hover over this again, you can see the menu's changed to just visit site, which will take me back to the front. Okay. So in the upper left-hand corner here, we also have the WordPress icon. This will take you to some information about WordPress if you want to learn more about WordPress.org, different documentation. Support forums are great. The community is really big and really helpful if you ever run into any issues there. So those are some great resources. As I mentioned earlier, you have the home button, which says My WordPress Website. This will actually change later on when we change the title of our website. The default title is called My WordPress Website, so we'll get to that in a little bit. The next icon here is for comments. In all the instances that we have for the College of Sciences Web Department, we turn off comments, so this icon will not be used. The next one, as I mentioned earlier, is just the new icon, so this will let us do new posts, new media, new pages, new users. And additional content can be added to this menu if you add that functionality to your website. Okay, and over here on the right we have where it says howdy and then our username. This is a quick spot to go where you can edit your profile, or if you need to quickly log out, you can do so by hovering over this and clicking on either edit my profile or log out. So that's pretty much the WordPress admin bar in a nutshell. Next we'll look at the actual dashboard. On the landing page here, you'll have your welcome to WordPress information, some get started information, what your next steps can be, and some more actions. You can actually dismiss this. This can pop up every time, or if you dismiss it, then this won't show up anymore. Then down here we have our at a glance. This is most commonly just used to see how many pages, posts, or comments you have. You can see some recent activity down here, some WordPress news, or if you just wanted to type up something real quick that you've got a thought of that came to you about a post or page, you can do that here just by giving it a quick title and some content and hitting Save Draft. If we look over here on the left, we have the dashboard menu. We have at the top where it says dashboard, we have home and updates. Anytime you log in and there's updates to either WordPress, your plugins, or your themes, you'll see a little icon here next to updates with a number depending on the number of updates that are available. Below that we have two sections. We have from posts down to comments, Then we have from appearance down to settings. So this top section is going to be where all your content for your site lives. So this will be posts if you're using a blog, some of your media items, your pages, comments if you turn that functionality on. And then this lower section will be any of the backend things, so your site settings, from menus, themes, widgets, adding new plugins or extending the functionality of your site, similar to how you add apps to a phone or something like that. You can add new users. You can also go to a basic settings section, which we're going to go into right now, just so we can get an idea of how to adjust the basic settings right after we've gotten our WordPress site and we've gotten our credentials. So if I click on settings, that'll go ahead and bring up the general tab, and I could have gotten to this as well just by hovering over settings and clicking on general. So up at the top here we have site title and tagline. That corresponds to, once again, the site title corresponds to what's listed here, and then on the front end of our site, that corresponds to right here, and then our tagline is right here. This is the default 2014 theme. Depending on what theme you use, your site title and tagline will show up differently, but generally it's usually towards the top left hand corner. So if I change this to my awesome site and scroll down and hit save changes and reloaded, you can see that the title has changed here and up in my admin bar as well. So this is where you would go if you wanted to change your site title. If you have a lab or a faculty site or something like that, you can change that here. And if you wanted, you could put the department you're associated with as your tagline if you wanted. The next two settings you're going to want to leave alone. We set these up when we set up your WordPress site for you. The first one is the installation URL, and the second one is the actual site address. So please leave these alone unless you want to mess up your site, which we don't recommend. The next one is going to be the default email address for admin notifications, like new users or different things like that are available. This isn't an actual email address, so just put this in as a dummy filler. But whatever the admin one is there, if you would like to be the main contact or the main person to be notified when these things are available, feel free to go ahead and put in your email address there. The next one has to do with registrations, because we're going to be using this site as a static website, or more of just not as a blog, which is the default, but more of just a list of pages and content. We don't really want people to be able to register, so we're going to go ahead and leave that unchecked. The new user role kind of goes with the membership. Since we're not allowing registration, we're going to leave this as subscriber, because if for some reason someone was able to sign up, we wouldn't want them to have the ability to come in the back end or to make any changes to our site. Next, below that, we have the time zone. So depending on where you're at, you can set this up to where all your modified dates will correspond to this. And also when you're scheduling things, like if you wanted to work on a new page and have it go live at a certain date and time, you can set that up here. Because we're on the East Coast, I'll just go ahead and set this to New York. And then we have date and time formats. This is just corresponds once again to those publishing options. And if your theme supports showing the date a page was created or modified, or the time, then that would go off of these settings as well. So we're okay with these basic ones, so I'll just go ahead and hit save changes, and that'll cover the basic general settings here. Now I'm going to go down to writing just to show you what this one is. Because, like I mentioned, we're not using this as a blog, you can skip over this section. Once again, this is just a built-in thing because WordPress was defaultly used as a blog. So you can go ahead and skip this. We'll go down to reading. Now, reading is important because it has to do with your theme and what is actually displayed on your home page. So using this basic theme that we have, the 2014 theme, it's set by default to show a list of the most recent blog posts that we have. And we can see that setting conveyed right here where it says your latest posts. If we wanted a static web page to be shown here, like a welcome page, we could go ahead and create a page and then select a static page and then select for our home page an existing page. So once we create a bunch of pages, as you'll see in the next videos, we can come back here and select any of these pages. So right now there's only one page, so that's the only one that's showing up. But after we create a few, this list will dynamically be populated. So if I go ahead and set this to sample page and hit save changes, and we go back and refresh, we'll see that the home page has changed from that listing of that latest blog post to a static page where we can go ahead and edit this content. So that's how you set a static page. And once again, this depends on your theme too. Depending on the theme, you may have to definitely set this here, but you might have to make an adjustment in a theme options page or something like that if you need to. The next one here would be if we do use this latest posts, or if we use blogging at all, we can set the number of posts that will show up on a page before a user has to click next or previous posts or something like that. So I would go ahead and just leave this as the default 10, and that corresponds to syndication feeds as well. If someone subscribes to your blog URL, you can set the number of items that will show up in that feed. So it's okay, I would just leave it as 10 so they match. And then you also have in that feed, if you want the full text of the article to show up, or if you just want a summary. If you do summary, it'll help keep it short and concise, and it won't show obviously the entire article. And then down here we have search engine visibility. I would go ahead and click this to discourage search engines from indexing the site while you're working on it or setting it up initially. After you've set up your site and things are going and you've got some content that you want to show off to Google or to Bing or to Yahoo, then I would go ahead and make sure that this is unchecked. But for the time being, while we're working on things, I would go ahead and leave this checked. Okay, now that those are saved, we'll go on discussion. And as you heard me mention a few times, we kind of discourage people from using these WordPress installs for blogs that have comments, just because I'd say about 8 times out of 10, it's just going to be spam. So what I can go ahead and do here under discussion settings is turn off the default article settings for allowing comments. So we'll go ahead and turn those off. And another thing I'll do is if for some reason someone was able to post a comment, I'll enable these so that it'll just make it next to impossible for it to actually show up on the website. And we'll go ahead and save that. All right, the last two sections we'll talk about is media. And with media, anytime you upload an image to WordPress, it'll do its best to create different image sizes for you. So it'll have a default thumbnail size, a medium size, a large size, and then the full size. So if you uploaded a picture that you took off your phone, chances are it might be really high resolution, or if you took one with a professional camera, it'd be a large resolution as well. So here you can define what you want those 3 different sizes to be: your thumbnail, your medium size, and your large size. Generally speaking, I like to leave the defaults here. These are pretty good. So we'll go ahead and leave that the way it is, and I'm okay with WordPress automatically organizing my uploads into month and year folders. So we can go ahead and leave that. And then we have permalinks. Well, permalinks are your web URLs for your pages or your posts. By default, you'll see here WordPress will have our installation name followed by a P, which stands for post, and then the actual ID number. You have some different options here. What I generally like to go with is post name, especially for if you're going to be using this as more of a static website that just has content on it. This will help your pages be easier to read by search engines and by people. So by default, we'll go ahead and base this off of the title of your page or the title of your post. And that's it for the basic settings. But one thing I wanted to go over real quick that we haven't mentioned yet is that the front end of your website, if you're using the 2014 theme and most newer WordPress themes, and the back end of your site will be responsive. So what that means is depending on the size of your browser the website will respond accordingly. So if I go ahead and shrink this down, you'll see that some of the content will have moved. So for instance, in this theme, this content on the left, when I get to a certain point, say this would possibly be like a browser for a tablet or something, that content will have moved down to the bottom here. So that it'll just try to reorganize it for the best readability. If I go even smaller, you'll notice that my menu has switched. So now I have my menu here is a expandable collapsible, and this is great if you're on a large phone or a small phone or a medium-sized tablet. And this works the same way on the back end. So if I go and open up my dashboard again, you'll see, if I shrink this down, you'll see that a lot of this stuff will resize, and then after a certain breakpoint, this will automatically collapse. I do have an expand and collapse button here, and then after another point, it will actually collapse even further, make these icons a little bit bigger, and then if I click on this, you'll notice these are a little bit bigger, and I can get the most out of my screen size or real estate. A great thing with WordPress is that you'll be able to edit and view your site from any internet-enabled device. So if you're in a pinch and you got a message or something saying, hey, something's misspelled, or I need to add something or edit something, you can do this on any internet-enabled device. So that could be, you know, a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, or anything in between there. So okay, that's going to wrap it up for this first introductory video. Hope you've got something out of this, and please stay tuned to our next video, and we'll see you in a little bit.